For over 5 years, we have had the privilege of, hosting different amazing guests at the different editions of the Youth in Business Forum. And the whole idea really is to help entrepreneurs find the usable insights, the resources, and of course, the funding that they need to start, to grow, and to scale their businesses globally. For all these years, we've been privileged to have, amazing MDs, CEOs, diplomats, government officials, amazing people across the length, breadth of Nigeria and indeed of Africa. And dare I say, we've also been privileged, to help entrepreneurs, startups in particular, to find help when they needed it the most. Of all these years of this amazing professional adventure of working with startups and young growing businesses, I dare say that today's guest is unique, is in a class all by herself. Yes, we have had amazing people as our guests at both the events and of course during our podcast and of course our magazine as well. But today we have a guest who is totally different, in a class all by herself. Today, I speak of none other than the Honorable Consul General of France here in Nigeria, Mrs. Laurence Monmayrant. Thank you very much, ma'am. So first, did I get the pronunciation of your name right? Is it Monmayrant or how is it pronounced?
You're perfectly right, so I'm impressed.
Well, Madam Consul, thank you so much for taking out time out of your very busy schedule to do this. Let's get straight into it. In my world, all I know about consulate is they give you a visa and sadly sometimes they deny your visa. But talk to me, madam. What does a consulate do? What is it about the consulate?
Yes. So first, thank you so much, Peter, for coming to the consulate today. I'm very honored to have you. With the ambassador, we attended the event, the Youth in Business Forum, a few weeks ago, and I was quite impressed by the capacity that Youth in Business Forum had to mobilize so many youth and to show what they do in Nigeria. Is really impressive. So it was a great moment for our ambassador to showcase what France do in Nigeria. So here today, I'm very glad to have you at the consulate and to present you what as Consul General I'm doing in Lagos. Because yes, we do deliver visa, but we don't only deal with visas, and consulates have quite a lot of activities, and I can explain very briefly. We have a consulate which is located out of the capital city, out of the capital of the country. So we have embassies in capitals, political capitals, and we either have consulates within the embassies or consulate out of the embassy when it is located out of the political capital. And this is what happens in Lagos. And obviously Lagos is the economic capital of Nigeria, so it's very fascinating to be here. Been here for 3 years, and it's quite an interesting time that I have had. So what we do is first work with the embassy. We have within the consulate 2 departments from the embassy. They deal with economic issues and with cultural issues. I can come back to this later on. And of course we have consular activities. So it's divided mainly into 2 parts. Administrating the French community living in my jurisdiction for Lagos, because we have 2 consular jurisdictions, one for Abuja at the embassy and one for the consulate in Lagos. So I mainly have to look after French citizens living in this part of Nigeria, and the French community is mainly based in Lagos and Port Harcourt. So what we do for them, I can go into details later. And then, so this is one part of the consular activities, dealing with French nationals, and the other part is to deal with visas. So visas is obviously an important activity at the consulate, but this is not the only one.
Now amazing insight. Let's get into the depths of the different things that the consulate does. So there's the consular services,
yes,
which is primarily tailored at French citizens living here in Nigeria, and then of course there's the trade angle that's into agriculture. What other sector?
Oh, we have many.
Okay.
So France has a lot of trade and exchanges with Nigeria. So agriculture is one of them. There's technology, there's of course the oil sector. But it's very interesting to see that we have approximately 100 French companies here in Nigeria. And within the consulate, you also have Franco-Nigerian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So they do a lot also for networking between French people and the Nigerian business community. So it's very dynamic. And we have a lot of French investments in Nigeria. We have 10 billion euros of investment in Nigeria. It accounts
10 billion euros.
Yes.
French investments here in Nigeria.
Sure. And this is 75% of French investment in Western Africa.
Oh,
so
wow.
you see, Nigeria accounts for a big part of this cake.
Thank you.
And we are very glad about it. We are very proud about it. And French companies here, they employ 10,000 Nigerians. So you see, it's not necessarily well known, but it's important for us to recall that we have quite a big interest here, and we want to continue to promote these ties between Nigeria and France.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I of course know that there's a very strong bilateral relation between France and Nigeria, but I didn't know that it's this heavy. To think that 75% of FDI is from France into West Africa, 75% of that is domiciled here in Nigeria.
So of course we have specific services to deal with all the different aspects of these economic relations. The economic section from the embassy, which is also based in Lagos, deals on microeconomic issues with regards issues concerning the state level between the two countries. Then we have an agency which is called Business France. So what they do is basically to promote French exportations to Nigeria. So we have a lot of French delegations coming to Nigeria to explore the Nigerian market. And on the other side, we have they also help Nigerians who want to invest in France, and sometimes it can be startups. They can have discussions with startups, and they can provide them the details they need to help them invest in France. Then we have within the consulate also we have an office from the AFD, Agence Française de Développement. They are based in Abuja, but they're also present here because they have a very strong cooperation with many states and more specifically with Lagos states on infrastructure and other plans also, but infrastructure is a big part of it.
Madam CG, so you spoke about the fact that consulate also does trade, but at the micro level. So that assumes that the embassy will do something at the macro level, at the national level. Now let's talk about the consulate. And my interest right now is the microness. How does that micro economic activity of the consulate, how does that affect the normal startups, tech ecosystems and all of that? Do you have any provisions for them?
Well, it's important to us to know what is happening in Nigeria for our authorities to be informed of the dynamism of the private sector in Nigeria. So there are very strong ties, a few weeks ago, President Macron hosted a Choose France event in Versailles. And Choose France is mainly an event which aims at attracting foreign investment to France. And there were delegations from Nigeria. Every year they are present. There are many foreign states present, and there were delegations from the private sector. So that's one part. And then I was talking about AFD a bit earlier, but they also have a private. Also have a branch dealing with private sector.
Right.
So what they do, for instance, is financing banks in Nigeria for specific financing of startups, for instance.
That's Propaco?
Propaco, indeed. So it's it's a very wide range of programs that we can have with both the government level and the private sector.
Madam CG, I mean, you are doing so well. You're doing so well. Thank you. But before we go to visa, is there anything you also want to talk about the commercial activities of the consulate?
Well, yes. So I've given details already about what we do on the commercial and economic side already. And so the other part of our activity, as I said, is also the consular part, and visas are of course part of it. So what we can see during the last 12 months is that our activity is resuming very strongly. So this is good news. This is good news because it shows that ties are even stronger after the COVID time, where obviously we had to stop. But it's a challenge for our consular visa section because there are a lot of expectations. They were mainly during the summer. There was a peak, so it's okay now. But the month of June was a bit of a challenge. So we, for instance, we received 20,000 visa applications during the last 12 months. Whoa. Just to give you an example of the level of activity that we are facing. The main part of it are Schengen visas, whether for business or tourism, and we have a small part of it for long-term visa. So I would say, as obviously the youth can be interested in what we do in this area. For instance, studying in France is promoted worldwide. So we have increased the number of students going to France to study. Last year it was approximately 250. And it's
250,000 or just 250?
No, 250.
Oh wow, last year.
But we start from a low level, so we keep increasing.
I'm sorry, Madam CG, I just want to get that. Is it the number of visas approved or the number of applications received?
No, this is the number of visas approved.
Okay, fantastic. For student visas?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes. So we promote, we have an agency promoting studies
Campus
in France, Campus France. They're based here in Lagos at the French Alliance. And they do a great job. And this weekend I will be meeting students going to France. And some alumni, and it's always very inspiring to see how eager they are to go to France to study, and when they come back to meet them again and to have feedback on their experience. And because then when they come back to Nigeria, they build strong ties between Nigeria and France. They have experience they gained in France. They hopefully come back speaking French for most of them, and so it's very important also for economic ties to be able to find Nigerians who have a good knowledge of France is all about, and about the way of life in France, and many culture aspects that make sometimes business relations easier. So yes, that's what we do, and we also deliver passport talent visas, but it's very specific. So it's in very rare cases, but it happens for young people who want to invest in France or to bring innovation.
Right.
So it goes through a very specific process with Business France, because they have to present the project and it has to be approved. But sometimes it can be interesting for young Nigerians to know that it exists, and we are very much interested in what startups do worldwide, and what we can see here in Nigeria. I have already visited many incubators, and it's fascinating to see what young Nigerians are able to create. Startups. Their job is really to be disruptive and to introduce new kind of services that you didn't even know you would need it, and in the end, when you use it, then you realize it was. You can't imagine how you used to
survive
before
it.
So it's sure. And it's very impressive to see how Nigerians are creative in this way also. So yes, that's what we do in the visa section. What I would advise, because I know you asked me, can you give some advice to applicants? So what I can do maybe is give three kind of advice. The first one is make sure your finding is complete, because when we have a big workload, we don't have time to go back to the applicants to tell him, please,
send
this document is missing, send an additional document. We don't have time, so we make the decision on what we have, on what we receive. So, sometimes there can be refusals because there are documents missing, which is a shame, but people really need to understand that this is something that we stress with VFS, our treatment partner. So this is the first piece of advice. The second thing is tell the truth. Only apply to the French visa center if you plan to go to France, because even if it's a Schengen visa, it doesn't work if you want to go to Italy or somewhere, or to Germany. So really your first point of entry must be France. We represent the Netherlands, so it works also here in Lagos. We represent the Netherlands, it works also for the Netherlands. So tell the truth, that's important. And the last one is important to know that you need to anticipate.
You need to
anticipate before you travel. Don't wait until the last minute, because then it's a lot of pressure on you, and there's a delay for appointments. Though we do our best to reduce this delay, but it's important that you make your appointment sometimes 2 months in advance. Sometimes it can be less, depending on if it's at the peak season or not. And we need approximately between 7 and 10 working days to process the visa, and there's nothing we can do to reduce it, because this is a procedure. So yes, that's the three pieces of advice I would give to
Thank you so much, madam, because I can tell you, madam CG, that was in 2019 I was denied the French visa. It's a shame.
Sorry.
It's okay. So I got an invitation to attend the Paris Peace Forum. You know about the Paris Peace Forum?
Yes.
Fantastic. So I got an invitation. So what had happened was I'd applied for the South African visa, and they had these long backlogs, very long. So they delayed my passport for some 2-3 months, and I needed to retrieve that before I applied, to the French visa. So by the time I applied, so they gave me their visa, that's South Africa. By the time I applied, I think I was like 5 days to the event itself. So I mean, it was just, and ever since then I was so heartbroken. I didn't come back.
Sorry about this. So now you know that, and it's very important for applicants to understand this, because otherwise they can imagine, and have a wrong a wrong impression. But this is really the rules that works.
I mean, it's interesting because I'm out there, Madam CG. So we are out there more a little more than you, and then there's a perception that says that the French embassy or the consulate is kind of stingy with visa.
Oh no.
Right. I want you to speak to that.
No, we're not. We are not. But as long as the applicant how shall I put it? How long as the application shows all the documents that we need to have for this person to travel. So that's the financial resources, that's the insurances, that's the purpose of the stay, where you will be staying, and make sure that you will come back to Nigeria. Because this is our main concern, that people come back to Nigeria. Because otherwise this is another kind of visa. It's not a short-term visa, it's a long-term visa. If people want to establish in France and to make their life in France, that's something else. So for a Schengen visa, we need to make sure that all these conditions are met, and then everything goes well. It's there's no way that we should not grant a visa if all the conditions are met. Because really, we need people to be able to travel between France and Nigeria. There's a lot at stake. There's the economic relation, there's the cultural relations. We have a lot of artists going to France. So as long as they follow the rules that I've just mentioned with the 3 pieces of advice I gave, then it should be fine.
The major question out there, one of the major questions out there, is how much should I have in my bank account before the French embassy?
No, I won't go into these details, because sometimes there's something that we call magic money. And magic money is when you can see that there's a bank transfer, which is completely different from what happens the rest of the time on this bank account, just for the time of the visa application. So there's no tips to give people. It's only tell the truth. And you have a sponsor, you have an employer who can sponsor your trip and give the assurances that he can provide for your trip, and that you will be able to come back. So that's mainly our concern. But there's no tips to be given, because that's a very bad idea. Because then people start to do things which is not the reality, and as long as it's not the reality, we feel that there's something wrong. This is why I usually say, tell the truth, and everything will be fine. Okay?
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Madam CG. I have a billion questions running through my head.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'm going to take you on, Madam CG. There are certain countries that before they give you visa, they require that you show up for interview. Why? Because they want to look at you. They want to be able to see if you're telling the truth. They want to look, eye muscle movement, all of that. But France doesn't do this. So are there other ways you are able to tell? It's because my application to France was true by every sense of it. But when I got the rejection, this is me, personal. What I had on the rejection was that whoever made that decision was that he or she wasn't sure if I'll return to Nigeria. And then it was hurtful, because I know me. There's no way I'll just go, abandon everything, and just go sit down there doing what? Really and truly. So how do you ascertain truth, from applications? How are you able to tell that this fellow is telling? Because you're not seeing the person. It is what they put on paper that you make a decision on. And because of that, sometimes I want to believe it's a bit difficult to tell who really is telling the truth and who is not telling the truth. How are you able to do this?
But even when your visa is denied, you can
appeal.
You can appeal, of course. This is a long process. You can do that. But there's also another possibility is to apply again and to provide more documents to make sure that the situation is better understood. And sometimes we also do checks, and sometimes we also call applicants, and sometimes we can call them, see them and talk to them. So there's no, but of course we don't see 100% of them, as you said. Some other countries do otherwise. This is what we do here.
That's fair. Let's talk a little bit, Madam CG, about your special talent visa. That's the one you spoke about,
Yes.
speak to business France. Because I have a friend, his name is Fela. He's in France as we speak. He started, I don't know if you remember him, Salubata. Does it ring any bell? Salubata. Okay, because he got a special visa from France, and then he's moved to France, and he's doing so well. I think recently we were talking, and he's got an investment of about 50,000 euros from some investors in France. So I want you to speak to that, because again, I'm representing startups. The people that will read these are startups, and these are questions, right? Because the average guy, as I speak to you, Madam CG, my very first organization is called Mindsmith, the way you're goldsmith, blacksmith, right? Thankfully, this lady here, today runs Mindsmith. Right, and as we speak, we're working on an app that will literally put education in the metaverse. And these are kind of things that, and not just me, there are startups out there who want to take their innovation, take it out there, and for the whole world to buy into it. So how do we, apply to this kind of visa? Please speak to this.
Well, we can give you details, with Business France, because more specifically on your company and your activity. But as I said, the process is that you have to present your project as a startup and explain how innovative it is. Then it is submitted to our economic minister in France in relations with Business France also. So it goes through a process in France for them to assess the kind of innovation that you are looking at and that you wish to introduce to implement. So this is how it goes, and then as long as this process, which is very technical, that visa sections have no expertise on this. So as long as it is approved, then you can be granted the visa, the competence, passport. Right? So this is basically how it goes. So.
Interesting. Madam CG, so I'm going to come down to something a little bit more personal. Of course, still on the visa discussion. From your experience so far, what has been the pass and, for want of a better word, fail rate?
Sorry?
In terms of visa approvals, how many, in terms of, you have a certain number of applications per year, for instance, last year, 20,000. Of those 20,000, what's the average percentage of success of people who get their visa?
We can't communicate on this. I'm sorry, like I can't get it. I cannot communicate on this.
Right.
But I mean, it is not as bad as what people think. So it's really, as I said, if you have all the conditions on it, then it should be fine. We were talking about startups and creation, and there's also an area which I did not mention, is culture. And this is something which is of interest to us. Our cultural section from the embassy, and we have an office here within the consulate, is working, for instance, with animation studios, and 12 of them went to France at the Annecy Festival last month. So this is also the kind of things that we do, is to showcase in France what Nigeria and what the youth of Nigeria is doing, and not only in business or startups areas, but also as far as culture is concerned and cultural creative industries. So this is also something we are very proud about, and it's very encouraging when we see that we can help these people. For instance, they were trained we had a training program to help them to pitch their project when they were in France at the Annecy Festival, maybe to get investors to help them grow. So this is very interesting because they were, Nigerians coming from every part of Nigeria, not only Lagos, because we are very much focused in Lagos, of course. But
part of the job of the consulate and of course the embassy at large is to promote, Nigeria and Nigerian community among French people. That's quite interesting because my next question will be around FDIs in terms of foreign direct investments into Nigeria's private sector. I know that most of the things that happens at the bilateral level is government funding government projects, right? But is there a way is there like a platform, a place, a community that Nigerian businesses can find investors in France? Is there a place, somebody to speak to? So if I'm a startup,
for Nigerians who want to invest in France?
No, who wants to get investment from
France?
Yes, please.
Well, here that's mainly, I would say, you have an agency to promote foreign investment in Nigeria, Nigerian promotion agency. So that's mainly it. But then it goes also through Chamber of Commerce. It goes through really the business community, and it's a question of network. Because many French companies invest in Nigeria, whether big groups or smaller companies like startups. So they are interested in knowing what happens in Nigeria. So they meet our economic services, but most of the time, the network within the Chamber of Commerce. As I said, there's been the European Chamber of Commerce also, which is a forum where you can meet all the European business community. So there are a lot of places where you can get information, get contacts to French investors. And you can be contacted.
What's the best business, Madam CG, that Nigerians can possibly do in France? And I will explain. So in Brazil, for instance, Brazil is big on agriculture. So for the most
also.
Yes. Fantastic. Now, these are some of the information that we need, because I know that there are certain kinds of businesses that a startup who is looking for international expansion might not consider some countries because of the purpose of that startup. If you're an agri-tech, an agripreneur and all of that, Brazil and now France and all that. So what kind of businesses would you say that, France, of course, we are open to different kinds of businesses, but we have special interest in these 1, 2, 3, 4. What would you do?
Well, agriculture is a good example.
Okay.
We have a focus on agriculture, and we have a counselor for agriculture at the French embassy in Abuja.
Oh, wow.
Right? So she's been here for 3 years, so she knows a lot about agriculture in Nigeria. I think she's been nearly in every state of Nigeria since she took office. So she's very much in contact with Nigerian groups involved into agriculture, and we have delegations from Nigeria going to what we call the Salon de l'Agriculture in France. This is a very important event which takes place each year, where we can have delegations from different states or even from the private sector from Nigeria traveling to Paris to go and see how they could develop business with French companies to invest into their states or to be a partner with them in Nigeria. So yes, it exists already, and maybe if you haven't heard about it, you can get in contact with our embassy because we can provide details.
Interesting. All right, if you are just joining us, of course, we've been in touch with the Honorable Consul General of France, Madame Laurence Monmayrant. An amazing lady, to be sure. I mean, of course, there are a lot of perceptions and misconceptions out there about France and, of course, about French visa. But I'm glad, I am genuinely happy to tell all of you out there that one of the easiest visas to get, whether you believe it or not, is a French visa. I mean, there are just 3 simple guidelines.
I think you got misunderstood. No, we have such a surge in visa applications, so you will make an appeal to everyone.
Right.
No, I mean, what I said is this: as long as you stick to the rules and you comply with the rules to get a Schengen visa, then you will
certainly get it.
Granted.
So you got it. Stick to the rules. 3 rules. Number 1, don't lie. No matter how tempting it gets, don't lie. Tell the truth. Because here at the French embassy, there are codes, there are robots, artificial intelligence. They pick out and filter lies. All right, that's number 1. And of course, number 2, you've got to anticipate. And then number 3, ensure that you complete your documentation, so to speak. Again, and it's totally understandable because you have a country of 200 million people applying to one embassy. Right? The way you're trying to apply is the way millions of others are also trying to apply. The embassy or the consulate does not have the time, to start sending you an email to say, hey, you forgot to put your bank statement, you forgot to put your passport, and all of that. Of course not. So you've got to ensure that you take out, you do the due diligence yourself to ensure that you fill out your form properly, fill in all the attachments required, all the documentations required, don't tell a lie, and anticipate. If everything is right, there's nothing that will stop you from getting your visa. Again, we've been speaking to the Honorable Consul General, Madame Laurence Monmayrant, and now we want to go into France. We've been talking about the business interests of the consulate here in Nigeria. We've talked about the visa, application processes and all of that here in Nigeria. But now let's leave Nigeria a little bit. Let's go into France. Madam Consul General, there's a popular phrase in Nigeria that says, "See Paris and die." Have you heard that before?
Yes.
Why do you agree with it?
I do.
You do?
But if possible, don't die.
Don't die, all right.
Enjoy Paris.
Okay.
Enjoy Paris, yes. Paris is definitely a great place. And it's true that as a French diplomat, we are posted abroad and it's always very, I'm always very moved when people feel very strong about Paris because it's definitely a great city. It's very modern, as we said. Many innovation startups, like Chris just said. It's also well known, of course, for the gastronomy, for fashion, for luxury industries, but it's also very interesting way of life. We as French people, we enjoy good life, we enjoy good food and arts, and we are very glad to be able to share this with foreigners who come to France to enjoy our country and the best of what we can offer.
Interesting. That's a very, very strong answer. Madam CG, I want you very, very specific. If I get to Paris today, give me 5 places that I must visit if I must really make good experience of my stay.
Yes.
For instance, here in Nigeria, I can tell you you've got to go to Takwa Bay. Right? It's one of those island cities.
Yes.
If you go to Takwa Bay, a couple of places here and there. So, of course, the Obudu Ranch, there's a place in Abu. There's a couple of places here and there.
Wait.
Which will it be?
Yes. Okay, so in Paris, I would say, if you want to enjoy, well, of course, you go to the museums, and I would say the Louvre. is impressive.
The Louvre.
The Louvre.
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 The Louvre. Got it.
Where you can find fantastic collections of pieces of art. So it's definitely a wonderful museum that you have to visit when you go to Paris. So of course there are many monuments in Paris, and I know many Nigerians, they want to climb the Eiffel Tower.
Yes.
This is a must, right? But if you want to enjoy, so that's one thing. If you want to enjoy also the way of life, I like when I'm in Paris, I would recommend it. Go to a brasserie. Brasserie, it's a French cafe where you can sit at the terrace outside and enjoy a French meal, or just enjoy a cafe with croissant. And this is something that we as French living abroad, we enjoy when we go back to France for a while. So that's something. Now, France, of course, is not only Paris.
Yes.
So you need to know the rest of the country. I come from Normandy, for instance, which is in the northwest of France. So what I would recommend is really to visit the Mont Saint-Michel.
The what?
Mont Saint-Michel, Mount Saint Michael.
Oh, great.
Which is classified among the merveilles du monde, marvelous things that you can visit in the world. So yes, that's the kind of of destination that would
that's quite interesting.
Would be interesting.
Do you have a fall? So I see these things on social media where somebody goes somewhere and then it falls into, but there's something dangling and holding it. Do you have anything like that in France?
Oh yes, what we call also how do you call it? You mean jumping from a bridge?
Yes, from a cliff or something.
Yes, you can do that in many places in France. Yeah, because we have very high and ancient bridges dating back from the Romans times, for instance.
And they are still strong.
And they are still strong, of course. That's the impressive thing about it. But in some places you can even jump. It's very high. I've never done it. But, are you interested in it?
Oh, I am totally.
Yeah. You do think? Have you done this already?
Yes. Wow. But I've never been to France, so this is one of the experiences.
Yes.
That's when it's time to travel.
So it's high in adrenaline.
Oh yeah, I am. Yes, I am actually. Not gonna lie. But that's quite interesting. What are the best meals that for you can't leave France without tasting this meal? Of course, you spoke about coffee with papoué.
Yeah, and that's what I like to do. I just go to a brasserie and have pieces of what we call a French piece of beef, which is called bavette, and you eat it with echalot, and it's very nice. It's very simple, but it's very nice. I like it. But I heard, recently we had a Nigerian delegation, so they went to France, and the meat was not cooked enough. Was not, because I understand in Nigeria you prefer well cooked.
And it's spicy too.
Yes, so it's a bit different. So you may not at the beginning, you may not enjoy it as you would think, but you have to accept that it's different from what.
What's the best Nigerian meal?
Well, I like the jollof rice, and I like I think Nigerian meal is well, I must say Nigerians like to eat. They enjoy it, and they have specific food, and it's always interesting to be posted in a country when you have a local gastronomy. So
Let me ask you an interesting question, CG. I'm totally enjoying myself, really. France is rich, particularly in culinary. Some of the finest culinary schools in the world are from France, Cordon Bleu and the rest of them. You cannot be a good chef. I mean, as a matter of fact, there's this particular rating they do. I've forgotten the name now. Most of the firms that have won those ratings, those culinary, they are from France, right? So does that mean that the French market is saturated when it comes to food? So the way you have KFC, McDonald's, Burger Cheese, and all of those big franchises. we'll start somewhere.
Not
then,
French ones.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying.
They are not French brands.
Yes.
But there are many French brands also.
Right.
That you may not have heard about.
But we don't have too many of them in Nigeria, do why?
No, it's true. It's true that they are. But we have one. For instance, Kaiser is one of them.
Yes.
But there are some, and I think it will come because Nigerians travel a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They have a lot of international references.
Mm-hmm.
So it will come more and more. I should think.
I also want to think that, but again, I was going to ask you, Madam CG, is there a chance for a food business here in Nigeria to go open a branch in France?
Why not try? I'm impressed to see how Nigerians are very much interested into fine cuisine. And you would be surprised the number of, there are quite a few Nigerians who went to France to study fine cuisine. Sometimes, some of them tell me they studied at Cordon Bleu, which is a school very well known, for instance, for teaching French cuisine. And interestingly, they transpose it with Nigerian variations, and it's very clever, and it's very fine cuisine. I have tasted it, and I was really impressed.
Nice.
So you see, I'm sure there must be a market.
Actually, that's strong. All right.
What interests you most as Nigerian youth in business? What interests you most in France? What are you most interested in? When you think of France, you are the young generation. You are doing well. For most of you in Nigeria, when I say doing well, it means that you have very interesting projects,
yes.
And it's thriving, and it's growing. So when you think about France, what do you think? What comes to your mind at first, and what are your expectations?
Fantastic question, and I'm happy you asked that because I've thought about this before, and I'm going to answer that on two planes. So first, the cultural angle, and then second, purely business angle. I'm not a singer. I would never be, right? I am not. Of course, Burna Boy, Wizkid, Davido. Those guys go to the likes of O2 and they sell it out. They go to Madison Square Garden and they sell it out. But for people like us, we know that we will never be able to do that. But yet, with our own unique content, we must also sell out Madison Square Garden. So we have such entrepreneurial appetite. So now to answer that question, coming from a place of an entrepreneur who's got these wild, dreams and all of that, I know that you just must conquer different markets. In the North American market, US is the prime. In the Europe market, France is number one. So first, if you ask me what interests you, I can't conquer Europe if I don't come into France. So France is the gatekeeper, is the what's the word? Is the principal, so to speak, in Europe. So that's number one, right?
Definitely, because France, has been ranked first place for foreign investment in Europe.
I didn't know this.
So it's very attractive, more and more. So it's very good for us to hear that you see France as the gate to Europe, because this is definitely how we wish to be seen. And this is how we are starting to be seen. So
I can tell you that. Thankfully, I didn't know this, right? You asked me, and it's number one. There's even no, but it also extends beyond Europe. The number one spoken language in the world is Mandarin, but I have a major issue with that, right? Number two is between French and Spanish, right? Number 4, 5 is English. Now, I don't respect Mandarin. I respect Mandarin as a language, right? But I don't respect their placement. And why is that? Yes, it's the most spoken language, but it's concentrated. If you know what I mean, it's in one place, right? Unlike a French. Go anywhere, you will find, French.
And go to your neighbors, because all Nigerian neighbor countries
Thank
are
you.
French-speaking countries.
That's where I'm going. So even though France is the gatekeeper, so to speak, in Europe, is the principal in Europe, it extends beyond Europe, right? If you are able to do business with France successfully, you will conquer, interestingly, a lot of African markets as well. So the conversation is not just a Europe's conversation. It's practically impossible to go global.
So next time we have a session to promote French investment in France, we'll call you.
Yay!
This is exactly what we say. This is exactly what Igor and Business France say. So it's great to hear.
Yes, it's true. It is very true. But now that's business, right? It's interesting from a place of culture. Now, the average, I don't know about Africans, but the average Nigerian, we are acculturated. We like culture. Right? We are not exactly people. We're a people of culture. From Igbos to Hausas, we're a people of culture. And it's just very important to me personally, and of course to every young person out there. Even though we have this worldview, we are quite exposed to the happening of things within the global space. Even though we do have that, going for us, at the base, at the roots, at the core of our being, there's that culture that we want to express. There's that part of us that want to express that and all that. And France is one country that is very, very open to culture. Literally. I mean, I'm not going to mention another country to say this country is not. No, I won't do that. But France is one country that is big when it comes to promoting culture, expression of cultures, and all of that. So yeah. So from that to alone, then of course aesthetics. My sister, she also happens to be my younger sister. She's going to get married next year, and she's been troubling my life. How? She's been saying that my honeymoon must be in Paris. So aesthetics. Yeah. Because we come on life to live, Madam CG. One life. The day we exit this world, we're not coming back. So this one life that we have is important that we do the business, go global. It's important that we express ourselves, but it's also very important that we experience beauty. We experience nature at its finest, and you can't experience nature at its finest. I mean, Paris has been rated as one of the finest cities in the world. Top 2, if not, number 1 and all that. So those are like, metrics. So of course, these are things that I consider when thinking of France and when wanting to do business with France.
Fantastic. That's so great to hear. To hear this from you and from the youth, because this is exactly what we are hoping for. In our relations to Nigeria and to the civil society.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you, this will be the second to the last question, because I want to talk about you now as a person, your growing up experience and all of that, but this is the last question from the normal official upside. And this is sensitive, Madam CG. It's quite sensitive, so let me just, but it's important that we ask someone like you so that we have a message to take back out there to spread. There's a general perception that if you don't speak French, you will struggle a little bit in France. A general perception. The guy who wants to travel from the Benin Republic, which is really a French-speaking country, or Senegal, will thrive. Get to France and you thrive. But for the guy who speaks English as his first language, right, who cannot speak French yet, there's this general perception that you can't do business successfully. Say something about this.
Yes, I heard this kind of statement before. I think French people have made a lot of progress in this area, and that more and more people are able to speak English today in France. Definitely in the business sector, but maybe you're talking about everyday life. So that's one thing. And then, just to give an example for students, you would be surprised to see there are hundreds, if not 1,000, curriculum in France where you can study which are not taught in French but in English. So this is why it shouldn't be an obstacle, and this is why we promote studies in France, and we do not necessarily require people to have a high level of French. We say, come, you will be taught in English because it's sometimes a business curriculum, but then we know that most of the time, and especially Nigerians, because you are very good at learning languages. Most of the time, Nigerians, they come back, they speak French. Of course, when they come back, they say, oh no, I don't speak very well. But when you go a step further, you can see that they speak better than they actually say. So it shouldn't refrain people from, in no case, it shouldn't refrain people from learning France.
There was this projection, I'm not sure we shared it, that in a couple of years, there will be the half of the world's population who will be speaking French.
Yes.
So please, in our next interview, ask me questions in French. I'll answer back. In
Parle
French.
français, Peter?
No, next interview.
For next time. Okay, so you should learn very quickly.
Yes, I will. Yes, I will. Actually, I will.
We'll do that. You can enjoy. You can learn French. We have 10 French alliances in Nigeria.
Whoa.
10.
Wow.
That's quite a huge number, a huge network within Nigeria. And we have one Institut Français in Abuja, but definitely in Lagos. You have 2 places, Ikoyi or Ikeja. We have one in Ikeja also.
Yes. Interesting. Madam CG, amazing session with you. I want us to just speak very briefly about you in terms of your growing up experience, because again, this magazine, this program is not just for the Nigerian market. There's a young girl in France who is trying to figure out what next, right? There's a young boy in France who perhaps wants to be a diplomat, and he's asking himself questions. He's still in primary school or in high school, and he's asking himself questions: how do I become Mrs. Laurence? How do I become a CG someday? How do I become a diplomat someday? So I want you to speak briefly, about your growing up experience. Is this what you've always wanted to be? How did it happen? And what is the pathway, for guys, for people, young people who want to become, French diplomats who are still young and all that? How can they begin to live their lives? Is it a course of study? Is it the kind of food they eat that will make them become a diplomat? I want you to speak to that.
Earlier we were talking about learning French and foreign languages. I think when I was a young girl, I was very quickly attracted to learning foreign languages. Before I even knew I would become a diplomat. So I was attracted to living abroad, to foreign cultures and to foreign languages. So maybe this is something that you feel very early, before you even put a name on what kind of profession or competency can be. And then so I lived abroad. My first experience out of Europe, because I lived in France, in Germany, in the UK, and my first experience out of Europe was actually on the African continent. Before I even joined the Foreign Service, I lived in Gabon for 2 years.
Doing what now?
Well, I was teaching at French school in Gabon, and then I came back to France, and I passed the entry exams for the foreign ministries, and I took the different internal exams, and then I became a diplomat. So you see, it's I think I didn't know from the beginning I wanted to become a diplomat. Of course, I was fascinated by embassies and consulates, and I thought it would be great one day to do this wonderful job, and I can confirm this is a wonderful job. But then it was opportunities which came up and which showed me the way to this path. So I've been in the Foreign Service now for 23 years,
What?
23 years. Yeah.
I'm tempted to ask how old you are because you look so young. Interesting.
23.
Wow.
So I started in Papua New Guinea in the Pacific, where I spent 2 years. Then we usually have 2 postings abroad, and then we come back in France, and we have 2 postings abroad again. So then I back to Paris. Then I was posted in China, in South China in Guangzhou. So I learned Chinese. Then I was posted to Kinshasa at our embassy in DRC. It was more on political issues, and it was very, very interesting. I also spent before that a few months in New York at our permanent mission to the UN. Because every year there's the General Assembly in New York, and we send, the French ministry sent reinforcement diplomats, reinforcement team. So I spent 4 months there. It was quite fascinating to see how it works, how a General Assembly works, because this is where all the countries in the world gather to express their line, their foreign policy lines. So it's quite interesting. Then I was back to France. Then I was posted Consul General in Moncton and Halifax in Canada. For 3 years, and then I chose Lagos, and Lagos was my first choice.
Interesting.
I really tried my best to get this posting because I thought it would be fascinating, and I'm not disappointed. It's really up to my expectations, and my husband is also fulfilled with this.
He's a Lagosian, actually.
He is. Yes, because we love this place simply because of what you said. There's a very strong entrepreneurship spirit here. There's a lot of dynamism, and that's what we feel when we meet people. Because Nigerians have a very strong capacity. They're very hardworking. I can receive calls at any time of the day and night sometimes. So it's really impressive because it never stops in Lagos. This is great because people want to achieve things, and when they talk to you about something they have in mind, most of the time they have started to achieve it. I mean, they are not talking about something they will never realize. They are really talking about something tangible that they have worked hard already on it, and they only need some help at one point to grow, and that's really what I find great about Nigeria. Obviously, this is not an easy country, but people work hard, they achieve a lot, and I mean you can be proud of what you do worldwide because you have great youth. I think this is you bring through this youth, you bring a lot of innovation and capacity. You have a lot of skilled people here. So I'm sure this country has a lot to bring,
even though the government needs to. Well, anyways, that's thank you so much, Madam Consul General. It's been amazing speaking with you, and it's quite revealing also to know that. Of course, we know that assumption is the least level of knowledge. For the most part, those of us who are out there, we have all sorts of assumptions about applying for the French visa, the consulate, and all of that. Today, in our session with you has been so not just really insightful, and not just also insightful. I think it's not so much about the interview, but you as a person. There's something about you that welcomes people to France. Talking to you, I'm thinking, guys, let's go to France. It's quite a good time. Thank you so much.
Well, I would say with people like you, it makes people feel like going to Nigeria.
Interesting. Until they come and then our government sends them. That's right away. But thank you so much, Madam CJ. It's quite quite revealing. When you leave Nigeria, do you have an idea where you will be posted?
It's the decision is in the process. It's
Right.
hard to know from now, but I will definitely always keep a great part of Nigeria.
Yes.
within me.
Don't worry. We would organize. That's the youth and business people. We'll organize a party for you when it's time, a special one.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We've been speaking with the Honorable Consul General of France, Mrs. Laurence Monmayrant. It's been such an amazing experience, amazing, revealing, insightful. It's interesting to know that France holds the gateway. I mean, of course, everybody knows that, to Europe. Now, but do you also know that France wants you? Do you know that France wants you to come? Now, you've been wanting to go to France, but do you also know that France is looking, to welcoming you? It's people with interesting heterogeneous appeal of people, And of course, I understand that there are a lot of perceptions out there, but this session has been totally demystifying of all of the opinions that we hold before now. Again, I want to say a big thank you, Madam Consul General.
Thank you
so much for your time, for your humility, for your warm-heartedness. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
So much. All right.